call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody to our meeting this morning. Remind you, if you'd like to address the jury, if you have not gotten on the agenda, please come out, fill a card out so you can get to speak. With that, I'd like to ask Mr. Cliff to lead us in the pledge. Mr. Lee will lead us in the pledge. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. My first item on the agenda is the board group.
Thank y'all. Mike Misha with the P-Card Group. I have with me Nick Waltz and David Koch. And once again, we want to thank y'all. It's been an honor and privilege to represent y'all both in Baton Rouge and in Washington. Just want to give you a quick update from the state perspective, and Nick's going to weigh in on the federal side. As y'all know, the legislature has had their share of challenges dealing with the virus. After the elections last fall, the new leadership took over, and they went into a regular session, had to halt the session, went back into session, then went into a special session. The members of the House actually lost one of their own members, Representative Pakala, newly elected member, to the virus himself. Others tested positive, so it's been a challenging environment for them. Representative Bouillard can attest to what he created for them in the session. Despite all of that, they were able to get some things done. When they went back into session, they passed a capital outlay bill that secured money for a ferry for you all. As you know, there's $20 million in HB2 for a ferry. In addition to that, there's, I think, $4 million from LGAP and $4 million from the community water for the waterworks project. The state received $1.8 billion from the federal government in the CARES Act funding. $1 billion of that went to plug the state's budget hole. They dedicated $800 million for local and parish government. Out of that $800 million, the legislature set up what they call the Main Street Recovery Program, which is about $300 million of that under Treasurer Schroeder. That is an additional grant program for small businesses who are impacted by the virus. They just went live with that program last week, I believe. We released some information for y'all. So small businesses, many of whom were not able to take advantage of the PPP, can hopefully take advantage of this program. It's up to $15,000 per applicant, and we're trying to get the word out to all of the regions of the state that this program is out there, and it was passed by the legislature. They have to get all the applications in and all the money out the door by the end of the year, so y'all please spread the word to small businesses that may have been impacted by the virus and we're not able to take advantage of PPP. Looking ahead, they are more than likely going into a special session again sometime in October. They're anticipating receiving some other federal dollars. As y'all know, the feds are kind of going through their negotiations right now. But the state is looking to receive some additional federal dollars, so they're probably going to have another special session sometime in October. But let me just brag on you, Representative Brian Bouillard serves on the Ways and Means Committee. He's been actively engaged and very well respected around the Capitol. It's a pleasure for us to work with him, Senator Hinskins, Senator Ronnie Johns, and the others from your area delegation. And once again, thank y'all for the opportunity to represent y'all in Baton Rouge. I'm going to let Nick say a few words about the federal side.
Yeah, a couple other things on state real quick. We did monitor the final legislation which passed. That's going to be on the ballot coming up for the constitutional amendment which Senator Mark Abraham authored the session. So we did watch that as something the jury had been supportive in the past. And in addition to the ferry money that we had in capital outlay, there was $4 million for LGAP and $4 million for community water as well in the HB2 that we were watching for you all. But I'm going to focus on the federal side, has large in part been the aid packages in light of coronavirus. And I apologize that Emily and Hunter couldn't be here in person. So I hope I'm sufficient enough, but we'll direct any questions to that office to get answered. As Mike mentioned, the 800 million, about 524 of that was used as funding to get distributed to the local governments through the CARES package. That was based on population. The focus, as we're watching the HEROES Act, the second piece of legislation, which is currently being negotiated between the Republicans and the Democrats, is going to be making sure that there's discretionary funding for parishes of all sizes. I think the original had about 100 million that was discretionary funding, but it was capped at who could qualify for it. So we're pushing right now, large part with the senators, to make sure that there's discretionary funding available to everyone. Continuing to watch for other grant opportunities, such as the Bill grant, which we submitted in the past, ended up not moving forward because of the state money coming through. But just to raise the profile of projects that we do have ongoing here in Cameron Parish. The last thing I'd like to touch on is Washington Mardi Gras this year was canceled. That's often an event where we bring you all up and host you in front of the delegation. What we want to do is refocus that to be Cameron Parish specific fly-in, to where we're setting up meetings with the delegation, getting us an opportunity to get in front of them while they're out in D.C. And deliberating the issues that are important to us. So we're going to look at scheduling that, working with you all sometime, most likely in the spring, when the Congress is back in session. With that, I think Mike and I would be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
The only question I have is from our distinguished colleague who's not here today, he's has COVID, I think. He asked for y'all to explain, because I think your contract comes up today, just kind of give the people an idea of what you do for us for that contract.
Yes, so our contract is for government affairs and lobbying services at both the state and the federal level. So what we do for the parish is identify opportunities where funding may be available, whether that's through the federal or the state government, through capital outlay, appropriations, reauthorizations, or grant funding at all levels. Areas where we can pair the initiatives that the legislators are deliberating with the initiatives that we have here at the local level. There's also often bills that would go through the process, which would provide opportunity for local governments to lessen the threshold of whether that be a capital outlay match requirement, something that would change the way we're able to facilitate our assessments or set up cooperative endeavor agreements, whether that be for equipment or funding. Anything that where local government intersects with the state and federal is where we kind of interject to protect the interests of the parish in front of those other governmental bodies.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the item here is Jennifer Guidry, Grace of Gulf Proclamation.
Yes, Ms. President, she sent her apology. She was not able to attend due to a family emergency. So I will talk a little bit about what this Embrace the Gulf means. The Gulf of Mexico Alliance has launched Embrace the Gulf 2020 campaign, highlighting the value and vitality of the world's 9th largest body of water. The goal of the campaign is to promote the sustainability, beauty, and productivity of the Gulf of Mexico by highlighting 5 focus areas. So their areas that they want to focus on is resilient communities, prosperous industries, superior educational opportunities, thriving tourism, and healthy ecosystems. The Alliance is advocating this initiative to all coastal parishes throughout the Gulf Coast region to consider adopting the Embrace the Gulf Proclamation. And there is no better time than now, being hurricane season is an excellent way to remind people that the Gulf is an astonishingly valuable natural resource we must protect and prepare against storms. They have currently 9 or 10 parishes that have adopted this proclamation, and if you would consider supporting this, I think it is on the voting meeting. So, any questions?
All right, next item, David Doxey, food trucks.
Good morning. I know things change, but last year, this year at Holly Beach was supposed to be a 4-truck experiment to see if it worked. Nothing in Rutherford Beach. I asked for that, they said no. And then, well, it's there, but no, besides the point. What I'd like for y'all to do is, when Mr. Getty comes to Grand Lake, Joe, who gets the money? The school?
School.
Okay. Mr. Sonny, when them trucks go to Holly Beach, who gets the money?
But the trucks at Holly Beach right now aren't under the 501.
They're not under the 501?
That was a
That was the experiment thing.
Yeah, that's an experiment thing, okay, but, what I'd like for y'all to do is to look at the, permit office, and I talked to Jennifer, she said she might be able to write it in for just, when somebody comes into a permit for a 501c, they'll have to give it to a 501c based in this district or parish, not one from up north or Mississippi or whatever, just locally based. Because we've got the Oak Grove Baptist Church in Creole. A lot of members didn't come back, but they got a big crack in the floor, they can't even cook in the kitchen. That would help them out a lot, you know? And the money would stay local instead of going, because I don't see anything, the one that's getting the money now, except adding on to his little tiki hut and painting the white wall. Now, he did hire a $5,000 band, but that came, 501. That money could have been, that's 501. His 501c is his whole family. I looked at it. It's everybody he brings to the beach every week. And I just want y'all to take into consideration if y'all could pass, or get with Jennifer, so you can add that in there, just local-based 501c, like schools, churches, and stuff like that.
They don't have to, they don't have to identify
Who they give and who they're.
Yeah, I think Mr. Davies just suggesting that the 501c, making sure they are in the parish and not outside.
if it is that, if that's not in.
No, that's not currently in Mark.
Is that, and that's why, Jennifer, is that legal? Can we discriminate that way?
It could be, Mr. Sonny, for example, Mr. Gaddy's, is not a 501c3, but they are for the benefit of a local nonprofit, the school, okay? So you could put in there that you would have, that as far as your nonprofit exception goes, and we have this experiment on Holly Beach, which is not requiring that you're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
But as far as your nonprofit exception goes, you could require that they be a nonprofit organization based in Cameron Parish for the benefit of Cameron Parish. You could have a nonprofit organization in Mississippi that says, well, we're going to give everything we bring in to the Oak Grove Baptist Church, or to South Carolina High, or to something like that. That's okay to do. And I also told Mr. Davey that it might be a good idea to say, how much do you have to, because, you can say, we're going to have our food trucks, and 1% of it is going to go to this
I
nonprofit.
thought
So
it
it
did
might,
say 5%.
well, it's not in there.
Oh.
So I think you might want to say that X% of your profits, or you could say X% of your net, would go to qualify under the nonprofit exception, that you have a certain percentage of that would go to the nonprofit.
How would you regulate that?
You would have to make them give an accounting, after they have you would say, first of all, you would have to have, when they got their permit, they would have to have an agreement with the nonprofit, to say, this is what we're going to, and then you would have to have an accounting after the weekend, say within 10 days or something like that, to show this is what we took in, here's what we paid out to the nonprofit. So
Local.
make a little extra work for care Beth that she don't.
That is how.
So, yeah, that's
That's the only thing I just wanted to say, locally state 501c. You know, not one that comes in from up north or anywhere in Mississippi. Just they are the ones, the local people would be getting 501c. You know what I mean? That's all I have. But I thank y'all.
All right, I think,
Any questions on me?
If you would like for you to draft something up and send it to me, I
I would.
That would require
Okay.
advertisement.
can. Well, but just for them to look at it before they can decide they want to
we
advertise.
did,
I could draft,
just as an add-on,
No, what she's gonna do is draft.
I'll draft something up
And
and
then
send
once
it to
y'all
y'all.
decide on what you want.
And then y'all can, after you look at it, talk to your
before she
folks,
passes
maybe
up,
you can
ask this
think.
question, guys, what do y'all think would be, if she puts a percentage in there, what would be a fair percentage to ask? You know, she's gonna draft it however we want.
I would say 3 or 4%
Yeah.
of net, because if you say profit, hell, they can make the profit be nothing.
What is Getty's give percentage? Anybody know
But
that?
how much is a pizza, Joe?
I don't know.
I don't know, Joe, I thought
They
it
give
was
a dollar
20%.
something a pizza.
I thought it was 20%.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
The regular pepperoni pizza is $12, Mr. Thomas.
They give it about, if it's a pizza 12 and they give it $1.50, they're almost 10%.
It should be a minimum.
That's net. That's a lot.
But anyway, this will probably have something to go with, I guess we could change that. Never did.
Yeah, and you know, you don't really have to put that in your ordinance. You could make that a policy. You know, for permanent policy. And then you wouldn't have to go through all your advertising stuff.
Okay, and the only reason I asked it, I want to have this conversation every time somebody comes up with a food truck.
Right?
Yeah, if they would know, person would know that they say, okay, I'm giving this to the Catholic Church in Cameron, or Trio, or Branch in here, or Oak Grove Baptist Church that really needs it, or the school, but nothing out of here.
Well, I think if Getty is giving 10%, 20%, they all should give 20%. You know, maybe even number across the board.
But we want to make sure that we don't make it where nobody come and help the nonprofit. So if it's adjustable or handled by the permanent department, maybe it's 5% this time, maybe it's 25%. I don't know.
Carol said that he provides 6%.
6%?
That's what Carol said.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Is that their-
We just said Kim.
Is that net or gross?
Gross. Rick Shetland told me himself, 6% of gross.
6% of gross, okay.
And it's very good, and that's a good
That's
place
a
to
good
start.
place.
That's why I just want to say, you know, the 501c that we have here needs money. Not in
I'd
base.
like to understand how you operate it too. So,
I think that sounds like a policy change, though. I think we'll get some examples together. We'll try to do 6%, and we'll update our policy and protocols within our permitting department. Ms. Jenny was going to help us. We just talked about it, and we'll come back and present it to you. And if you want to just change the policy, that'll be something that we check within before we issue the permit. That'll just be a new criteria to meet. Do you have a written agreement for minimum 6% of profit? Yes or no? And if you can't provide that agreement, then they don't get the permit. It'll be something that we can handle in-house.
and that would be for the entire parish, not just for Holly Beach and.
No,
Well,
Under that,
because
we
you
get
actually need for Holly Beach, because Holly Beach is not required.
Yeah, they're following under a different.
That's a trial, yeah, that's a trial. That's the only place it's supposed to happen.
If it's a 501c and it's for a charitable charitable,
Organization.
A local
a percentage of sales would be easier.
That's what I'm saying, the growth.
I mean, profits too, you can make that profit whatever you want. A percentage of sales would be easy for
That's
that.
6% of sales.
But locally,
Yeah, but this time to figure out how much.
yeah, I'm not worried about how
Where
much.
they go.
I want to make sure it goes to local, money to 501c, or not, or given to the local ones that they're needed, not from out of state, out of area.
Okay, now, let's understand this, this is a first come, first served basis. I mean, it's not-
Right now, you have a limited jobs in Holly Beach. You have, I think, 4 or 5.
That's fair.
But we You don't have to limit on non-profit food trucks. Right.
That was, yeah, that's just an
Hollywood
experiment y'all
falls
wanted
under
to
like
do.
10
Did it
cents
work?
now in Kara, and then this particular nonprofit was under 10.7. They issued permits off of 1069 and 1070. So we're just talking about the 1070, which excludes Hollywood.
Right.
I'm not worried, I understand about how it is.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, do you want 50 food trucks in Cameron? Or is there a limit that can come in? Is it a first come, first served basis?
But not under the statute of
I think we need to look at that. I mean, I wouldn't want to see 20 or 30 food trucks just roll up in here and get this permit, and we can't tell them
Well,
no.
the only way they can come in, you gotta come to the permitting office.
Right.
And I agree with you, you might wanna look at numbers. Other than festival,
Yeah, I don't want to hurt any of the rest, but we only got two, maybe 3 restaurants. I don't want to hurt any restaurant or store. But if you get on Rutherford Beach, you get snow cone, you get food, they don't need to go camping. You know?
Right.
They got everything they need. And they brought everything they need. And I see y'all put 3 more dumpsters there and more commodes. Well, they don't understand when the dumpster is full, you don't put no more in. Because Cheyenne's group would come down with the empty one and pick up all the trash and throw it in there. The group we have now, no. If it's not in a bin, they don't pick it up. And there's always, and your bins are always full and bags all over the place, tents, everything else. And they just don't understand, you brought it, and if you can't put it away, you bring it home. And they guarantee that. You see that Kay Barnes, I think she talked to you all a couple of weeks ago. I called her yesterday and asked her for cameras, or could she get any pictures off her cameras? She said no, they were destroyed. Okay? That's all I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
So, for the keynote today, I probably won't have it to you for the meeting tonight, but I'll get it.
Thank you.
Point of information, Mr. President.
Hold on one second. We got
Yes, sir.
somebody fill out a card.
Stand by.
Want to speak?
2 months ago, they were supposed to come.
Yeah.
Come on, come on. 2 months ago, they were supposed to contact you. If you say something to them, it's going to make a difference.
Good morning. We met last month. Again, I'm Bobby Miller. I'm president of the Robin Rutherford Group Incorporated, a 501c3 at Rutherford Beach, and I feel like this is probably directed at Rocket Rutherford, so I wanted to be here to address that. But to Mr. Dofsky's comment about trash all around the dumpster, I'd advise you to drive by when you leave here, and there's no trash on the dumpster.
Not the weekend.
But I'm from Acadia Parish. Our 501c3 is domiciled in Acadia Parish. However, we have local members on our board. So, I mean, if the jury decides to change the domicile, I mean, we certainly would comply with that. But I just feel like that and like I told y'all last month, I mean, we being Rock Rutherford Group Incorporated, is a nonprofit, that we do a lot at Rutherford Beach, just because we love Rutherford Beach. My wife and I have had property there for 12 years, we pay taxes for 12 years. We're not we're involved, and we donate to the fishing festival auction personally, not the 501c3, because that's not the purpose of that 501c3. But I mean, we set up booths at the Fur Festival. I mean, we shop at, we eat at Key Boys, Canics, Anchors Up, Cameron Landing. Just this week we tried it out. We buy shrimp from Gray's and Jim Turo. So I mean, a lot of times people get slammed as being outsiders, but I mean, we're here for the long haul. myself, you know, more than outside. I'm not the guy that comes, you know, once or twice during the summer for a weekend and you don't see them until next year. I mean, we're here. We've been, actually, I've been on a quarantine vacation down here for 4 months, doing weekly beach sweeps, me and my wife, which I would also invite Mr. Doxey to join us for that if he, you know, would really like to do something to help with the beach. The beach has been very clean this year, but I'm getting side. I just want to give you a little background of who we are. But yeah, we are domiciled in Acadia Parish. Two of our board members are local. You know, we improved Rutherford Beach. We want to beautify Rutherford Beach. I mean, that's part of the plans for the funds that we've received from the food trucks, which, by the way, the day Mr. Crahan was sworn in, I emailed him a list of what we titled the Rutherford Beach wish list. It's, I mean, I don't remember exactly, it's 18 to 20 items that we'd like to do out there. So, I mean, you know, Scott's aware of what we'd like to do with the funds being raised. And, I mean, I'll just touch on a couple of things very quickly. I mean, it's a long list, but starting at Trosclair Road back in 1989, I've also been working on Rutherford Beach history, but in 1989, there was a very nice sign up on Trosclair pointing down Rutherford Beach Road. And I mean, it wasn't a highway sign, it's like a 4x8 sign, you know, Rutherford Beach pointing away, but it listed all the activities, you know, had pictures of like a redfish, I think, and a crab and birds. And I mean, we would like to put a sign back there. You know, that's one of the things on our list. We would like to, at the welcome sign, do those, you've probably seen around welcome signs going into cities where they build this like a little landscaping mound and they plant stuff. We want to do the little landscaping mound and put picnic palms around the welcome sign. We'd like to plant palm trees around the pavilion. And we realize that, I mean, this requires beach board approval. But I mean, you know, this is our plan, this is what we'd like to do, this is our wish list. Plant palm trees around the pavilion, we've already looked into, we feel like we can brace them off the stringer beam around the pavilion without having all these, you know, these knee braces coming down, that could be a tripping hazard. We'd like to do that, we'd like to replace that barbed wire fence that should have never been put in the middle of a recreation area, in my opinion. We would like to replace that with a very nice 3 or 4 inch rope fence to keep people off the dunes. I mean, we have a lot of plans that we would like to do. So, I mean, it seems like that, you know, it could be perception on my part. I don't think it is, but I mean, it seems like we run into resistance trying to do good things at Rutherford Beach. I don't know why it is. We're just here trying to help, trying to beautify, raising money. I heard rumors, the word was going around that, you know, the money was leaving the parish. You know, any money that leaves the parish comes back to the parish. And by that, I mean, we just bought, Rocky Rutherford just bought, there was two, you know, there's 2 rinse-off showers at the pavilion. When they weren't installed quite properly, which Scott knows about. I mean, it's not a big deal. This is a story. There was an Allen wrench set screw that should have been tied down, and these push button knobs, caps came off, and one of them gone. We found one, we put it back on. Anyway, we ordered, Robin Rutherford ordered 2 of those replacement caps. Well, they're Chicago faucets. The only place you get the caps are in Chicago. So, yeah, money went to Chicago, came back to the parish, currently installed at the pavilion. I mean, we buy our fireworks for the big fireworks show, which, by the way, I'm not sure if Johnson's here, says it's the best fireworks show he's ever seen. We buy those in Pineville, Central Louisiana. We have for years. We get a good deal. The guy gives us a lot of guidance. That's who we're comfortable with. We buy fireworks by the case in Pineville. Those fireworks are put in a trailer, they come back to Cameron Parish. So anybody that says money's leaving the parish without saying it's coming back to the parish is not being honest. I mean, that's all there is to it. So, I think I've addressed, I think I said what I want to say. I mean, if there is going to be a change, we certainly can, I think if it's agreeable to the jury, I mean, we just change our domicile to Cameron Parish. We already have 2 local members, you know, it's just a documentation issue. But I would hope that, you know, we're allowed to continue what we're doing, what we've been doing, what we hope to continue to do. And I appreciate your time.
Questions, guys?
Mr. President, I'd like to rise for a point of information.
The only thing I got to say about this is, as far as the fence goes, or removing, putting a rope, I want the fence to stay where it is. It was put there for a reason. They put a rope, they're gonna pick it up and go under.
But that's a different issue.
Well, he mentioned it in here,
Yes,
so
but
I just wanted to state that fact.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. President, I'd like to remind the police jury, 2 months ago at our police jury meeting, many of these issues came up. Came up in terms of where these 501c should be located. It came up and we were understanding it'd be one 501c to one food truck. But if you review those tapes from 2 months ago, you'll find these issues were discussed, and I presented commentary at that time. But also to the parish administrator, the comments were made on record that the businesses that were being affected significantly in Creole because of this for-profit, not-for-profit operation, we were going to inquire into their status, what they thought, et cetera, et cetera. Did that inquiry take place? Do we have feedback from those businesses? And I see Mr. Canick is here too, not to call him out. But the crux of this is, this operation on Rutherford Beach is usurping money from our businesses in Creole. And for those of us that depends on those stores, day in, day out, not just coming down, spending a little time, not coming down on a Saturday. We need fuel, we need food, heck, we need T-Boys takeout too, with all due respect, John. But I think the crux is, the police jury needs to determine if this operation is going to damage our local businesses. They're property owners, they're taxpayers, and they employ many people in Creole. Thank you.
Could I speak to that, or, I don't know, Robert, order?
Does this permit that they have say that they have to donate percentage to nonprofit?
Their agreement states who they are,
Say again?
their agreement states, you know, what their proceeds will be used for.
It doesn't say.
I mean, not what they're gonna be actually used for, but,
Does it say that they gotta donate to like Gaddy's?
yes, yes.
Now, who is y'all nonprofit? Y'all
Rock.
donate to?
Rock and Rutherford is the nonprofit.
It's not a school, it's not,
Does the state have to be, I can go give you one of the things set up to be nonprofit too, and say, hey, donate to me, you know? I mean, that's what they're doing at Rock and Rutherford. I ain't saying it's a bad organization, but it's not like giving it to the schoolhouse or to a church that really benefits from this. I mean, that's up in the ordinance some kind of way.
Rutherford Beach and the community benefits.
Well, I was just trying to understand, I didn't get it.
501's a tricky deal because
Yeah.
it's got a wide spectrum of different people, churches, schools, organizations, such as Boy Scouts, what have you. These things, you have to be judged on an independent basis, so that's where our permitting group would come in. We do want to keep our monies home, we want to protect our local businesses, we ain't trying to hurt anybody, it's not our point, but at the same time, we need to provide services where we can, or allow services to.
Are we providing garbage pickup? Sound like we said something about.
We have dumpsters out there.
So they have a benefit, or they have a function, and the parish provides
The dumpsters stay there.
to remove their garbage?
They're there if we want to not have it.
It's beach dumpsters, you know, they've been having there for, years, dumping on the beach.
Y'all been there?
them. The beach board added them, the beach board added them.
Yeah, it's not for that
Who's paying
function.
for it?
It's not specifically for that function. They may use it, but it's not put there and then take it back after the
Beach
function.
board's paying for it?
Stays there.
Do y'all add?
We actually added some when the COVID-19, we all got locked down and the beach got a little bit busier. We actually did add some more hospitality.
But not for their function.
No, they were already there.
I just wanted to make that.
Now, do they pay for a pavilion every time they have a function? Every time?
If it's for public use, if they lease it for the electricity, they do pay for it, but it's only been leased once since we enacted the lease policy. And Mr. Miller, how many times have Rita's or Cowboy Combs used their permit on the beach? Do you know that number? Since you started applying? Since you applied for the permit? How many days?
How many days they been there?
Yes, sir.
10 or 12 probably.
And 2
Their
months?
schedule is not as set as Rita's schedule is.
Okay. We can do some research and see how many days they've actually been on the beach versus how long they've had the permit, and we can submit that to you guys too. That would be some good information to consider.
Do we have that by the time?
Yeah.
It's just-
We should, yes. You think you could get that together, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, could I follow up on Mr. Dukey's comments? I didn't know that part of that was part of
If you make it brief.
Okay. As part of my Rutherford Beach History Project, I've accumulated many documents and Cameron Pilot archive articles. I have a copy of the minutes of the very first Beach Board District 2 meeting where they discussed ideas to develop Rutherford Beach. Concession areas was high on the list that would attract tourism. You jump forward to 1997, the resolution by the jury to lease the beach from the state. Tourism, enhance, encourage tourism. In the 1998 actual lease, tourism. The project development plan specifically lists the concession area, the map that is part of the lease has the area designated as a concession area. Fast forward to 2020, we finally get, one single food truck on the beach, which is all we want. But, this is not something that Rock and Rutherford came up with, been talking about for decades. Now we have it. And this is the resistance I was talking about earlier that we seem to run into at every corner where we're trying to improve, for the people, for the beach schools. At Rutherford Beach, I really think this is a great idea that the way it's set up, that as opposed to a permit system where, you charge $15 or $20 a year per car or whatever. I mean, people are actually supporting the beach. The actual beach goers are supporting the beach when they buy a hamburger. $1 a hamburger goes to Rock and Rutherford, it goes to the sign up on Crossfire Road, for example. Well, I think it's a good idea. I honestly don't understand the resistance to it. But and I'm not telling you guys, I'm just saying from a group of people. But I spent a lot of time on the beach, I ride up down the beach. This is not like Florida where people gather up in the evening and go out for a night of fine dining. Usually people come to the Rutherford on Friday evening, they don't leave till Sunday evening. They don't run into town, they don't want to go into town, they won't be at the beach. I mean, I see them grilling, I see them eating their sandwiches. They're not leaving in mass going to grill. There's not. I mean, I don't ever regard what anybody says. I mean, if you want, I invite anybody to spend time out there and see for themselves. So, I mean, I think it's a red herring to say that, it's one little food truck, which has rained out the last 2 weekends, by the way, is having this devastating impact on local businesses. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I would ask the jury to let our permit stay and it'll let us to allow to provide the things that attract tourists to Rutherford Beach, which is the purpose of having beaches and recreation area in the first place. Thank you.
Mr. President, I got to stand for information.
Hey.
Stand up and talk out of turn.
Take it easy, you're gonna recognize one at a time.
Yes, sir.
How many extra dumpsters have we put out there? How many extra porta potties have we put out there?
There's 7 out there.
7 what?
4 bodies, 4 dumpsters.
And
Those weren't put out, those weren't
Added,
put.
We added 3 dumpsters and I think 6 porta potties, and we did the same thing in Holly Beach as well. And I added it, made the executive decision to add it because of the impact on the beaches that was, and something that we can submit
But
to
police
get
are paying for
reimbursed
all
through the
this.
CARES Act. We had,
Taxpayers are paying for all this stuff
Yes.
that they're adding.
we added it because of the litter problem. We did not want the same thing to happen on our beaches that happened at Rockefeller. When they removed the dumpsters and the porta potties at Rockefeller, they had a extremely big mess on their hands of trash and toilet paper throughout the refuge. So we decided to go ahead and have all the extra dumpsters and porta potties delivered, and I'm working on a grant right now to get it reimbursed through the CARES Act, so it won't cost the taxpayers $1.
What
But
happens after that?
when beach season's over, we're gonna have them picked up. We usually, pull some of our porta potties out once the summer season's over, like parish-wide anyway, so we're gonna have the extras that were out there removed for the winter months when they're not as busy. But we were bombarded with tourists starting March, April, May, like we've never seen before. And trash was a problem, Mr. Doc Sue's correct. There was bags everywhere, they couldn't keep up, no one was picking it up. Our road crew was going and picking up the trash and hauling it off. So to keep our road crew on the roads where they're supposed to be, maintaining the roads, we sent the dumpsters out there.
So it is costing the parish money.
Yeah.
It is costing them right now, but like I said, I'm submitting it through CARES to get reimbursed.
You have to be careful when you say it. The fact that we had the COVID and everybody was restricted on what travel they could do, a lot of people went to the beach. Beach day full. And thank God they could go at least social distance out to Fraxon.
Right.
But they have a place to go. So a lot of this has to do with the pandemic.
We also created those trash bags.
That's exactly right. I mean, this was all done way before we got permission
Our
to grow.
numbers jump sky high.
It's the,
That's where our COVID virus numbers jump sky high.
I'd just like to make a comment. You know, I worked for the jury for 38 years, and I was a road superintendent back in the day, and now I'm a police juryman, but it was so disheartening for so many years to find that the jury would go out there and try to make something nice, and as fast as the jury was putting it out there, somebody was trampling on it or tearing it up. And you gotta understand, and everybody needs to understand, it's a juggling act to try to provide something nice on these beaches and still put up with people going out there and vandalizing and tearing it up and all this, that it gets to you, that we try to do something nice, we would like to keep it nice, and if we're gonna spend the money out there, we wanna make sure that our stuff is getting taken care of, you know, our beaches are staying like they're supposed to be. That's just all I
Well, that's one of our, goals and intents, and actually what we do now. I mean, I was like my wife and I, we've been down here since April the 8th, do at least a beach week a week, not the entire beach, but the West End. We kind of adopted the West End. But yeah, I mean, I think anywhere you go, you know, people going trash. They do. I mean, you can't stop them doing that. I mean, we pick it up. In our crash, we pick it up, but we like to play beach. I mean, I think we want the same thing. It's just, sometimes we run into these roadblocks that really puzzle me. But we're just trying to, again, back to the issue. I mean, I just don't think one very small food truck is going to have devastating impact on local businesses. Not like the I mean, the Cameron Landing, I think, if you've been there, that place is huge, it's very nice, it's undoubtedly gonna deem local businesses. I mean, we're just, a little drug on the beach, if people ain't leaving the beach to go anywhere anyway. Now, will somebody go to town? Absolutely. Do the majority of people say be? Absolutely.
We gonna take this under advisement, we're gonna get some stuff from the staff, and we'll probably go over the next week.
Okay.
Next month.
All right, I appreciate your time.
We're gonna
Mr.
work-
President, point of information, I rise for.
Look, I asked earlier, you wanted to speak.
It's a point of information, sir, it's not a speech.
I've already recognized you once, so make it brief. We got-
Yeah, understand a point of information, Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure, sir.
Okay. All right. More questions? All right. Move on to the next item. Item number 6, Stephanie Rodriguez and Tom Berry.
Thank you, Mrs. Sully, for having us, and I'm going to defer to our second vice president and chairman of the fishing festival.
That's just probably, we'll be talking about food trucks here for the, I guarantee you. So thank you for having us on behalf of the Lions Club. Just wanted to make a presentation and update you on a few things. First and foremost, Mary, do you have those bids?
Yes.
Now, we have, last year, the Lions Club held our fishing festival in Grand Chenier, and it was well attended, and we had a lot of success. But there were some limitations on the south end of the pavilion. The rec board and the police jury had added on, but had not provided for electrical service on the south end. And so it caused some problems. And so what we had asked the rec board to do is obtain a few bids to make some improvements. They've done that. The Lions Club has offered to pay 100% of those improvements. Mr. James Savoy has submitted a bid, $6,795, which was about $100 less than the other competitive bid. But Mr. Savoy provided some additional items which we thought, made his even a better bid. So we're offering to pay that, and we want to just inform you all, since you're part of the parish and one of our partners in the fishing festival, that we're going to take care of that or offer that to the rec board.
Is there anything you need from us to get this done?
I think we can't break it down. I mean, the Lions Club just gives to the great organization. I mean, it's our facility out there, or we're a rec board taking care of it. How come we can't?
We're gonna, no, we offered that, and we're gonna do that, and our board has approved that. We have been very fortunate, through these years, that partnering with folks like you, the police jury, Venture Global, while, of course, I would normally be reporting the results of the fishing festival last weekend, but we canceled this year because of obvious quarantine COVID issues. But Venture Global, for instance, has donated $10,000 to our scholarship fund this year to help us. We have been so successful that we're able to award over $24,000 in new scholarships this year. That's in addition to our ongoing commitments to our students that we've committed to these last few years. To give you an idea, over the last 8 years, we have, through scholarships, other awards, other stipends, helping the different clubs of different schools in our parish, we've awarded $384,000 in 8 years. So we have, look, the Lions Club, and we do more than just a fishing festival. Look, if the police jury or the school board has a special event, we usually get asked to help, and we do that willingly and openly, and enjoy helping the parish and present, a good picture, a good face for the parish. But wanted to tell you just about that update. Tell you we did cancel the fishing festival, and we just appreciate everything. That the Grand Chenier Pavilion will benefit from this, not only our festival, which we anticipate we may have again there next year. At some point when the Venture Global project is finished here, we'll return to Cameron Parish and have our fishing festival here. But Grand Chenier is also a great facility, a great location. We just want to give back to the community that we're able to. So.
I have a comment, Mr. Dupont. It makes a lot of sense. You gotta do so much for the parish. I'd like to entertain that. If we can bring that on as an add-on, we can pay for that. You can spend your money on we know you wanna give it.
It is for the kids, it's for the community, it's for the next festival, it's for the next family that uses the facility.
We can't help you guys very often. This is one time I think we can.
But that's not what I'm here for.
Kids, I mean, give it to you, we give it to the kids.
How often do you want to make a donation, somebody tries to turn it down? But if we can do it, we'll do it. I think we're in agreement to do it.
Well, that's much appreciated, and wherever that $6,700 goes, whether it's to make those improvements or to a club, an organization, you know, that's where our money and our efforts go, so we much appreciate it, so thank you.
You can donate to the kids, and we can donate to the building.
That's your choice, so thank you.
And we as a jury, we appreciate all the lines put up to us for Cameron Parish.
Absolutely, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you for considering this.
Thank y'all very much.
We need that for the add-on?
Yes, sir.
And that's gonna be paid through the, we'll just shift that money over to the rec center?
Yes, sir.
And let them handle that?
Any other questions? Next item, item number 17, Park the Ball, Transocean Settlement. This is a good one.
That's why y'all can't really mention
I want to say kick off with that.
The fun part of my job. Thank y'all for having me. This is the, I guess, last phase of the BP oil spill. It's not money coming from BP, just a little background. Whenever BP was originally settled, well, whenever the BP part of the settlement happened, we reserved our rights against Halliburton and against Transocean. And so it's actually different classes than what y'all paid last time. So this one is based upon all the land that Cameron Parish, I'm sorry, the police area on the parish that was potentially affected by the spill. And this does resolve the rest of the case. These are the last defendants left. Y'all have any restrictions on money, so whatever y'all decide to do, y'all can. And I just want to thank y'all so much for trusting us to represent the parish, and it's been an honor.
Thank you.
I appreciate the good work.
Do you have any questions or anything?
Not really.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next item, Katie,
Yes, sir.
you're up next.
Okay, I have quite a few things I think we're gonna have to talk about, but the first thing is the Cameron Amenities update. This is a project that was funded through the Venture Global CEA. I know most of you drawers, at the time that the CEA was executed, you were not drawers, so I'm not sure how familiar you are with it. So I'll try to give you a little update on everything and the history behind it. And if I don't cover all the topics, just get with me after the meeting and I'll give you everything that we've had and bring you up to speed. But basically what happened was that because we had to close the jetty pier temporarily and abandon the road for the Venture Global project, they, in return, are going to build us a new RV resort, marina, boat launch, and I guess a market is what they're gonna call it, and restaurant. So that project's been in the works for about 3 years now. We are finally to the point where we are hoping that they will have their permit to build in hand in September. They're looking at breaking ground in September. Now, they have a very ambitious construction timeline. They're hoping that it only take 12 months to be fully constructed. They are going to prioritize the boat launch to help out the commercial fishermen because we had to close the boat launch. That'll be the first thing that they work on. They're hoping that they can have it ready by the time that oyster season and everything opens. So as long as they have their permit by September, they're looking at having everything open by next September. So that's very good news. We've been calling it the Cameron Amenities Project for quite some time now, and we engaged Cameron Answers into a contract to help us identify the perfect name for the entire development. We didn't want to just name the jetty pier and refer to it as Cameron Amenities or Jetty Pier. We wanted to name something, the entire development, a destination place. That way, if the restaurant comes, or the restaurant changes names over the years, we're not constantly having to rebrand and remarket this facility. Just the restaurant name would change, but the destination would always be consistent to attract the tourists. So, just coincidentally, in light of today being in honor of it being National Lighthouse Day, I was going to give you a little bit of history of a lighthouse that is quite not as famous as Sabine Lighthouse, but it is one that served our parish for over 60 years, back in the late 80s and the early 90s. It was called the Calcasieu River Lighthouse. It consisted of a pyramidal tower sheathed in black boilerplate iron that rested on a screw hall foundation. The light could be seen for 13 miles. Below the lantern, the structure contained 3 stories of working and living quarters. It had 3 keepers over its 60-year span. In 1877, 1916, and 1919, they had some pretty horrific hurricanes, and it was used as an evacuation shelter. And in 1940, with the dredging of the Calcasieu Pass ship channel, they had to dismantle it. So it was located in the middle of what is now the ship channel. So when we were searching for this name, we wanted something that had historical significance, yet was extremely marketable, something that we could be easily reproduced on like shirts, on any little keychain, something that could be sold in the market. We imagined something like a Wings or in Destin and stuff, where you go and you can buy everything, their names on everything, and you know where it's at. Or maybe like a Joe's Crab Shack. Everyone knows what Joe's Crab Shack is. You can buy the shirts. So we wanted something that was going to have a logo and a name that was easily marketable, but like I said, we wanted to make sure that we had something that was historical significant, that our people would be proud of. So when we came across this lighthouse and the history of it, we thought it would create a lot of curiosity and attract tourists, and once they got there and realized there wasn't a lighthouse, then it would provide the opportunity for them to discover the history of our parish. So after 3 years of searching for the perfect name and having several phone calls and focus groups, we decided to name the entire development Lighthouse Bend. So now that we have the name chosen that we feel is going to represent our parish the best and attract the tourists, provide the best opportunity to get people off of the I-10 corridor, get them down here. We want to keep them here and keep them spending their money here. So now we need to find the logo that we're going to put on, broadcast on all of the, everywhere. We're not even thinking like just Lake Charles. We want to make sure we attract people from Texas all the way through Mississippi, even north of Arkansas. So at 3 o'clock today, we are launching our logo voting campaign on Facebook. You go to our Facebook page, we have 4 options for people to choose from, and we're asking them to vote on their favorite logo. It's going to last for a week. We'll close voting at midnight on, I think it's August 16th. We'll tally the votes, and in September, we will reveal the winner. So I ask you, drawers, and everyone in the audience to please get on Facebook at 3 o'clock today and submit your vote.
So the winner will be trademarked?
The winner is going to be trademarked, and that is what we're going to use for as long as we have the entire development.
Good. Quick question, did you get some homework? I see the map. Is that about where the
Yes.
place is going to be? So the lighthouse was actually there, close by?
Yes. Actually, it was more on the west side of the ship channel. Not directly in the middle, but more on the west side. And when they dug the ship channel straight through, they had to dismantle it. So I think the Coast Guard building is still there. So it was very close to where the Coast Guard living quarters is on Monkey Island. That's where the original lighthouse was. And when we were going through all of our history, trying to figure out a name, like I said, that had the history tied to something that was very attractive to tourists, we came across this plaque, which I presented to you, And Southwest Historical Alliance, they had dedicated this plaque back before Rita, and they had an actual historical marker on Davis Road. So we would hope that after the development is built, we could integrate the history of the lighthouse and the market. We could integrate it into the playground for the kids to play with, and at the entrance of the development, replace this plaque and have like a photo op for people, like when they get there, and they could, read a little bit of the history at the entrance. Of course, that's something that's gonna come next year, those decisions, but we're hoping that we can get Venture Global and Cameron Answers on board and the jury on board to cover the cost of that. We're extremely excited about it. We really think this is gonna be good for Cameron Parish, and we're extremely grateful to Venture Global for taking on this big development, because it's gonna be very, very popular, I'd imagine, once it's open, especially having the RV resort aspect to it. I just want to remind you, for those you don't know, we did not 100% abandon the jetty pier. It will be reopened. You won't be able to access it by car, but we will have a water taxi, and you park at the development, and they will taxi you down to the jetty pier. You can still fish at the jetty pier and everything. And they'll still have the restaurants and everything up there. Yeah. Are there any questions? She's reminding me about an add-on item. So if you don't have any questions about the amenities and the timeline, because of Venture Global's ambitious construction timeline, that in turn lends us we have to have a very aggressive timeline. So I'm asking today for an add-on, if we could get authority to solicit proposals to acquire an operator. We are going to look first at getting an operator for the entire development to run the marina, the market, the RV resort, and the restaurant. But we're also gonna look at proposals for just the restaurant, for just the marina, for just the RV resort as well. But we need to get the authority to start advertising and getting the proposals in today, because Venture Global, if they're able to start construction in September, they would ideally want the operator chosen by December. Because whoever the operator is for the restaurant, they're gonna have an input on the design of the inside of the restaurant. They're gonna be able to pick floors, it's gonna, imagine like a spec house where you go in and you customize the floors, the walls, countertops. The operator of the restaurant's gonna have that flexibility to choose everything.
I must have missed something. You say RV resort.
Mhm.
I must have missed that. Where's the RV resort?
Across, we're on the other side of the restaurant. The restaurant and the marina and everything, it's all one complex.
It's before you get to Venture Global.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Out there by Bolos used to
How
be.
you gonna taxi all the way to,
Yeah, no, I have a booklet for you that Venture Global provided at their last meeting, so I'll give you the updated specs and designs and the locations of everything, Mr. Brown.
Do you have criteria for, you got for bids for operator, such as bond, how much bond do they need?
That's all developed. It's not finalized yet, but we will. We will have a scoring criteria, and we're gonna have a selection committee. We're gonna try and have someone from maybe that has history in owning and operating a restaurant that maybe doesn't actually have any current restaurants open. That way they're not worried, that way they're not biased trying to score people low, because it's gonna be their competitors. We're gonna try to find someone to represent the restaurant industry. We're gonna have some jury involvement. Venture Global is gonna have some involvement in scoring, and then we're also gonna ask Cameron Answers to provide somebody.
You have questions?
So that'll be an add-on. And then we will look at having an operator selected and a lease agreement ready to be executed by December. That's our timeline. Okay, so item B, I guess. Let me just roll right through all three topics, Mr. McGee. Okay, so the second item that I wanted to talk to you about, we touched on it last month, was our retiree insurance. Right now, our policy states that if you retire from the police jury, you will receive a maximum of $250 towards your insurance premium, unless you have 30 years of service. If you have 30 years of service, the police jury will cover 100% of your health insurance premium. That policy was set in 2013. The average cost of insurance for people on supplemental Medicaid was $190 a month. So the $250 was covering 100% of those employees who were 65 or older that retired, that were on that supplemental Medicaid. Well, 7 years later, insurance premiums with the rate increase, it's been 3 to 9% every year. There are 3 employees that have surpassed that $250 threshold. And so they are in their late 70s and 80s. For the last 7 years, they didn't have to pay insurance, that now are receiving bills for their insurance, which could create a problem. A lot of times those employees have caregivers that aren't aware that they might have to pay insurance and they're throwing the bills away. There's so many scams out there. So we had a problem a few months ago. The insurance company was about to drop some of our employees for non-payment for a few dollars. And so we cleared the problem up. We made sure that the insurance company is going to bill us directly, and it'll be our responsibility for getting any extra funds from the retirees. But since that problem kind of arose in the last few months, that's when we started to dig into the history and realized we haven't changed anything in 7 years. So I'm asking you today to at least, at the minimum, consider raising that $250 cap to maybe $500. That should cover the cost of those 65 and older employees that are on the Medicaid insurance policy. That way they'll never have to worry about budgeting, paying for their insurance. It won't, even though you're raising the cap to $500, you might only be paying an extra $1 or $2 a month for those employees who are already on the policy. So that would be the minimum that I'm going to ask you. But if you want to be very generous, I'd ask you to just maybe consider covering 100% of retirees' insurance, no matter their age when they retire, no matter how many years of service they have. Right now, Parochial, which is our retirement system, they have a sliding scale that stipulates when you can and can't retire. It's your years of service are offset by your age. They research everything before someone can retire from Cameron Parish Police Jury. We submit their work history, their pay, everything to this retirement system. They investigate it, make sure that they have credible years of service before they approve you to retire. So if we would just maybe take our retirement benefit plan and base it off of what Parochial does. Parochial's doing all the heavy lifting. They have the professionals. They're doing all the investigating. That would take a lot of that opportunity for accounting errors on our end. That would eliminate a lot of that. So if you, for example, right now, Parochial, if you are 62 years old and you've worked for 10 years, you can retire from the police jury. On the old retiree policy, we would only pay $250 towards your insurance. But if you would change it to the 100%, then they wouldn't have to worry about their insurance cost at all at 60 years old. So that's what I'd like to ask you to consider.
At 60, then we would pay 100% of their insurance to say they was 65 when Medicare and Medicaid takes off, and then it drops down to that supplemental pay, which would be that.
Exactly. Once you turn 65, you move from our regular health insurance policy to our supplemental Medicaid policy. The average cost of that is less than $250. So you're already essentially paying 100% of every retiree's insurance over 65. There are 3 people that are on your current, that are current retirees that are not over the age of 65, that haven't served 30 years of service, that you're paying $250 for. But once they turn 65, you're gonna take 100% of their cost of their insurance anyways. So you're gonna get into a revolving door, and your policy's already gonna evolve to where everyone's gonna get 100% of their insurance paid as a retiree, regardless of years served, if they're eligible to retire. That's what the policy's gonna evolve to. I just ask you to just do it now and don't wait for it to slowly grandfather itself in. And let's make sure that we cover the cost of those employees now that are in their 60s. They worked 28 years. At the time they retired, the policy didn't cover 100%. if they'd have known, they might have worked those 2 extra years to get that 100%, but now it's too late, they've already retired, so they can't come back and work those 2 years, so I ask you to consider the 100%. What the increase in cost, the increase in cost of paying the 100% for those 3 employees, or any employees now that are eligible to retire, that it would be $800 a month, say, for insurance. When they retire, that cost would be offset by their replacement, which would be coming in at an entry-level position with a lower salary. So you really aren't gonna increase your cost, you're gonna offset your retirement benefit by your lower salary entry-level position.
But, how does this fit into what you just said?
That's an option. That's the middle option. So I gave you option 1, which is the very least. I gave you the maximum, option 2, which is the highest, 100%. Or option 3 would be still base it off of your retirement system, but use their sliding scale for retirement for how they figure your average salary retirement benefit, which is they give you 3% every year service of your total average salary. So you could take that formula, that 3%, and their sliding scale, and apply it to your retirement benefit. So for example, someone with 25 years of service that retires, you would pay 85% of their health insurance premiums. The only, I guess, downside of using this particular option is you would not want to make it retroactive to people who are already retired, because you have people who already are on 65 and getting the 250 mark. Well, if you apply it retroactively, then now they only have, say, 18 years of service, so they would have to start paying something, whereas then when they retired, they didn't have to pay it. So you couldn't make it retroactive. This option would only apply to people who retired from now on.
One question I have is, so you're saying you would want people to retire with no minimum years of service?
No, I would, instead of requiring the 30 years of service to pay 100%, I would say drop that 30 years of service and just say, if you're eligible to retire from us, we will pay 100% of your health insurance.
What is our minimum retirement age?
The minimum retirement age, according to the retirement system, is 7 years at age 67, which you're already going to be paying 100% of their insurance because they're going to be on Medicaid at 65.
Can't you also retire with 10 years if you're
Yes.
59? So it's kind of a sliding thing between your age and your years of service.
And I guess the reason I'm asking the question is that you don't want to be hiring people, even older people, and work 2 years and retire and not pay.
They won't be eligible to retire after 2 years. You have to work 7 years to retire from us and have an age. You have to work 7 years and be 67.
Okay.
So you're paying 100% anyways.
But if you work 15 years, you could retire at,
15 years, you have to be 62.
okay. I'm good.
Because when you're paying very long anyway.
I just want to, these benefits, we want to take care of our people who work for us and do a good job. We don't want to make their benefits available to just anybody, but I didn't want to take on something that we might have to chew on later.
The advantage of having a policy based off of the retirement system is the retirement system, they pay every year. They have actuaries that come in, they run all the numbers, they look at the average lifespan, they look at the average years of their retirees, how much contributions are, and they figure out what a fully funded retirement system requires to make sure that they stay fully funded. So that 67 years in 2007 was changed, because they were seeing that people were retiring at any age. Back, if you were hired prior to 2007, if you worked 30 years, it didn't matter how old you were, you could retire. They realized that they were starting to have some gaps in their contributions, and they might not be able to stay 100% fully funded pension plan. So they made the policy change for anyone hired after 2007. These are requirements. So I'd imagine in 15 more years, they're probably going to change it again. So it takes all of the accounting work and the guesswork out of our office and leaves it in the hands of professionals who are investing their time and money to make sure that they are staying up to date with like I said, the average lifespan, the average salaries and everything. They take all that into consideration when they determine their retirement criteria.
But if someone retires at 59 and a half and from us, all right? And they go get another job, and we're gonna pay 100% of their insurance. They get insurance with another company, or another, the company they're actually going to work for, and it happens every day. They can retire 59 and a half, but they got their 30 years in, whatever. And then they use our insurance and not the company's insurance they're actually working for. I have a problem with that. I mean, I'm like, I like, make sure that we take care of them, but.
Well, right now in the retirement system, that 59-year-old would have to have 30 years of service, and you're already paying 100% on this policy anyways.
When they go down to 59 or lower, they gotta have 30 years.
So what about a returning employee? If you have someone who works for you 15 years, and then they retire, and then they come back.
They have to sit out, the retirement plan requires you to sit out for, I think it's like 3 years.
Okay.
You can only work part-time,
Yeah.
and then they make you re-enroll into the retirement system.
So you start all over?
No, you still could start adding on to your years of service, but for your retirement wages, they will refigure your retirement. But for our insurance purposes, we would count every year that you work here, so we would start adding on your insurance. Okay.
Service time is service time, is the actually what you do.
And
That
see,
includes the drop, stuff like that.
and there is a little gray area in our policy. See, there's credible service time and there's service time. The difference is service, if you are an active employee, that's considered service time. Even if you took 2 years of leave, like say, not 2 years, but say 12 weeks of family medical leave, that counts towards service time. But it does not count toward credible service time on the accounting, on the retirement side. So right now, you're having accountants that work for the police jury don't really have the means to investigate that and apply those formulas, trying to figure out, do we count credible service time or do we count just service time? They technically were still an employee for those 12 weeks of family medical leave, but the retirement system doesn't count it. They make you work those 12 weeks to make it up.
I think you suggesting that we turn, or we use the retirement
System.
system? So you're saying this is the best way to go?
Either the sliding scale or just the retirement system, eligible retirement, and that's it. 100% if you can retire according to our retirement system.
Well, we don't pay people retirement, insurance unless they retire. So, I mean,
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, but,
So, I mean, we're talking about retirement, I don't know why.
yeah, well, no, like, right now, for example, you have a employee who retired at 62 years old with 10 years of service. You're gonna pay $250 toward their health insurance. And then when they turn 65, you're still paying $250 for their health insurance, but their policy is only $190, so you're technically paying 100% of their insurance policy.
Yeah, which, they don't get the money, you just pay the
You're just paying
But
it.
it goes up to that.
We would be paying $327.
According to the sliding scale, yes. But that would only, you could only apply that to new employees. That's not gonna help your current retirees who maxed out their
If you
$250
don't get that
threshold.
money, it just pays up to that.
No.
I'm asking for 100%, that way every employee is treated fairly. They're eligible to retire.
The reason we did this way, put that 30 years in there and 100% was for what reason?
To
So that we
reward
could
the employees
hire
that,
people and give them incentive to stay with us and not have a big turnover.
Mhm.
That was the whole
Yes,
incentive. Putting a sliding scale in there would still do that, but still help those people with less than 30 years.
yes. But
That's why we did it originally.
if you do the sliding scale, please raise the $250 cap to say like $300 to cover those 3 retirees that are, like I said, in their 80s that are getting a bill now, that they don't have that in their budget. They are retired thinking they would have the $250 cap should cover it, and now we're 7 years later, we had changed in 2013, we increased the cap from 150 to 250 to cover the increased cost, so it's time to do it again, is exactly what I'm asking, yeah. So you could do size, scale, and raise the cap to say 300. That way you're taking care of your employee, your retirees, and you're helping all new retirees.
That's helpful. For me,
That would be option three.
Yes, that could be 3.5, yes, correct. Option 1, raise the cap to 300. Option 2, just pay 100% if you're eligible to retire. Option 3.5 would be raise the cap to 300 and implement the sliding scale. But I'd like for you guys to try to vote on this today because September 1st is when the insurance premiums are gonna take effect. So everyone's insurance is gonna go up on September 1st.
So wait,
So
somebody worked for us for 10 years, but they have to be how old to retire?
if they work for us for 10 years, they'd have to be 62.
So we're going to be paying it for 3 years then?
Yes.
I'll have to do the 100% all the way across the board and everybody.
but what happens, you gotta remember, a lot of people come to work for us, and that has worked for the state, and bring their insurance from over there here. So, that person comes to work for Parish for 10 years, and they got 30 years of time. The overall was to get that person, not to 100% them out.
So just 100% of that 250 or 300, it's not going to be that much money for him for 4 or 5 years anyway.
You work for the state for 20 years. You started when you was in high school. You come to work for the parish. You work 10 years. You got 30 years of service.
Well, I thought it was just
Whether
fair.
retirement.
They told
Fair.
parish employees.
Yeah, they have.
That's what they thought it was, but that is not what they actually did back in the day. So the ones from the state does not benefit.
You just get your
I have several of them.
Well, does anybody is there any case where you can bring on your retirement from another place?
No, yes, you can convert your retirement from the state to the parish for credible service. But it doesn't count toward parish service, is what Ms. Emily was saying.
All I'm saying is, we don't want employees working somewhere else to say in their last 10 years, well, I'll be better off working in a parish, that they're gonna pay 100% when I get to retire.
So we just need to do this parish employee. That's what we like.
That's what slide scale will show. Instead of paying 100%, you pay 2 years of service tax.
All right?
Are you guys gonna be ready to vote on this today? Or do we need to, because it'll be an add-on
Did
and
you say
right?
you needed to do
Okay, and then,
I
I
don't
can
know
vote on
what's
it.
the best, I just try to.
Okay.
Right, last vote update?
COVID update, I just wanted to provide everyone an update on parish operations. With the Phase 2 extension, we are still reporting to work parish-wide. The police jury office, the judge's office, the DA's office, they're all reporting to work, working a 40-hour week. They just have the doors closed to the public. We are working through fax and email and phone calls, and if we can't handle this parish business that way, then we will schedule an appointment for you to come in. But that's how most of the parish business is being handled. All of our libraries are open to the public, but they are restricting and limiting, I think 1 to 2 people, depending on each library, and at a time, public. But they are open to the public. The court, they are having court proceedings. They are planning to have a jury trial on August 30th. I guess, of course, if the governor removes his 50% or less restriction, we'll see how that goes.
We're gonna get around, we're gonna alternate panels and bring them in 25 or 30 at a time, and so we're planning on doing it even if we're still in phase 2.
Okay.
And that's being done, we're out.
So, waterwork districts and gravity drainage districts and recreation districts are all still, doing normal operations, closed to the public mainly. The Creo pool is the only one that's open, all the other pools are closed, and all the gyms are closed.
How would we open?
Creo pool, they worked with Brian King, and, they made sure they met all of the requirements to limit how many, the occupation, they're meeting their occupancy limits. They have all the temperature checks, they're all wearing masks and social distancing, and they're making it work. And they felt it was imperative to open, so Missy Lane made it happen. She opened the Creo pool, that's the only pool in the parish open right now, though.
And Grand Lakes Gym is open. We're doing temperature checks, they're required to wear masks when they work out, and we're not allowing any more than 5 people at a time.
Do we expect any phase change in the next week or two?
So why can't our pool be open? The Creo can.
It takes a lot of manpower.
Because we don't
To
have
open.
the people to police wearing masks 6 foot apart. We want to go to work?
Working up already.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Right,
Point.
are you expecting no changes from the governor's office?
Yes, you do have to be 6 feet in the pool as well. And so, but they're making it work, so.
Hey,
Read that forward.
the grill, they got a long neck. And somebody get closer than 6 foot, they grab them by the head, and they put them under the water.
John Cannon over there.
At the time that the governor allows us to move it to phase 3, we're gonna reopen our doors to the public. But so far, I think our staff's doing extremely well handling parish business behind closed doors, so, I haven't had any complaints. I hope you guys haven't received any complaints.
All right, if there's no questions on that, we'll move on to review the agenda.
I got some questions. For Emily, I see this pipeline they lowering, is that one we've had?
Open up for somebody?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the one.
That's the one that comes up where the road goes across, and then that's the 2 streets we're rebuilding. The egret and.
Egress stuff, that's all it is.
No,
Grant Street's Hollow Beach.
Yeah, right, most of them are Holly Beach.
The pipeline that goes to the water,
Yeah.
Yeah, what are we doing with that road?
We don't have a problem with that road. They just gotta lower their pipeline.
they're gonna lower the pipeline, they're gonna
Yeah,
repair
it's
it.
on the side. They gotta do the permits. They gotta get the proper permits. They gotta have approval to cut the blacktop road. They're gonna submit all that stuff, because y'all have to approve it and all that.
So it's part of their deal, they're gonna repair the blacktop.
Oh, yeah, they have to.
Okay.
They have to.
So this email we got from this lady in Johnson Bayou a couple weeks ago about her road not being repaired yet, which one is that?
That's Long Beach.
That's
Long
That's
Beach.
totally
Okay.
different. Yeah, that has nothing to do with the pipeline.
Yeah. So I was asking them.
Good questions.
Survived the last one was low there.
They did, I think they're really good.
They've done a great job. I don't know how far what else they're gonna do, but so far they've done a good job. Any more questions, Kurt?
No, right now.
Okay.
Still looking.
All right, I got a couple questions. I see where in Hollow Beach, they wanna remove existing concrete structure to the road. Is that our road?
No, that's a private road going to.
Private road? Okay. I didn't know we had a permit on a private road. I mean, other than,
Yeah, any changing out of existing culvert, you have to do a permit.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's see,
That's where the
and the two, Larry, Terry, they're in Hollow Beach.
Right,
Is that some of the fill-ins from the washouts?
that's correct.
Were they determined wetlands?
At this point, it's being processed, so it's too early to answer that question.
Well, you know, my question is if they were, then the other people are gonna complain.
That's right.
So,
and the Corps takes care of that?
Yes, sir.
I guess that's a question. I'll move on to number 12. This proposal for disaster recovery. For those of y'all who were here and dealt with some of this stuff, all I'm gonna say is I know that the staff has reviewed and graded these people. I haven't really got a chance to really get into the gist of that. I know some of them are close. If they're close, I'm gonna push for local companies as close as we can get. We had people from out of here that did work for us, especially on debris removal. And we couldn't get the hard local people, and when they did hard local people, they did so much better job because they were working for their friends and cleaning up for their friends. So my point is, I want to keep as local as possible. I don't think I'm breaking any rules doing that, especially if it's close. These contracts don't come into effect until we have a disaster, am I correct? So I'm just saying, I want to push for that. So I asked, when you submit that to us, could you give us a deal where their offices are located for each one of these companies? So at least we know where they're out of it and how far we have to go to them, if we have any issues with them. Any other comments?
I agree. 100%.
That just means,
You done?
I'm done, sir.
Oh, okay. Carabelle,
Yes.
I guess it's yours. Where's District 3 gravity drain station proposed maintenance on a levee and possible covers replacements? Gravity drain district number 3.
Oh, that's the W1 drainage canal that runs behind the office here,
Okay, that's what.
going east.
Chair, on, Robinson Energy, I read the information, and you said they couldn't locate the owner of the property or something?
Robertson Energy?
Something in there said they couldn't locate the owners, because I think that's the one that got posted.
Right.
Yeah. It says something in there about not being able to locate the owner. Would you mind looking at that?
I sure will.
Number 16, what is this? State water bottle capacity permit application.
That's to do with the Cameron Amenities Project. Anytime you are developing on state-owned water bottoms, this Class C permit is required.
Who is it?
State lands.
We're applying for, the police jury is the applicant for the,
Oh, that's what I
Department.
wanted to know.
Yeah.
And our permit is
for the marina and boat launch. It's something that we need to get our final construction permit for the lighthouse bend development.
You?
Guys, I'd like to say something on 17. I know we're going to have a proclamation for Carol. Carol's past, please, George, this year for, I've been here about 10 or 11 years. Good friend of mine, good community person. Can't say enough good things about Carol. We're going to miss him. I hope the jury extends our warmest condolences to the family. But it's sad. I think he was the first, if I'm not mistaken, lost COVID in the parish. Harold was just a great guy. Can't say nothing about him.
Serve as your own.
He's the president of Grand Forks for the last 10, 12 years. He did good also. But he did when he stepped out from the jury, he didn't shy away from doing his part in his community. Encourage others to step forward and serve on the board. It's getting harder and harder for people to serve on the boards. And you get two or three people like Carol, give up your time. And like I said, we know what we're doing a lot as a community. We want to do that as a parish for sure. Any other comments on the agenda?
Mr. President, we have 3 add-ons. Approve the quote to install electricity at Frontier Pavilion. Authority to advertise for RFPs for an operator of lighthouse bend facilities, and approve the retiree insurance policy changes.
All right, any other comments from the staff? Okay, I guess we'll adjourn this meeting.